Hey Wargamers, this is Napoleon's Marshal bringing you another By Fire and Sword battle report. If you don't know, By Fire and Sword is a fantastic historical wargame made by a company called Wargamer. They are based in Poland, however there is a US store. If you go to wargamerllc.com, you can buy all the miniatures there. It is a great game. The design is fantastic. You should definitely try it out. And there's different levels of play. I'm going to play a skirmish level game, which is very easy to get into. You don't need that many miniatures. And in fact, I'm splitting my Polish troops into two forces, and two decent sized forces too. So anyway, I highly recommend you check it out. Also read the books. The first book, they get the name By Fire and Sword from a novel with the same name, which is the first of a trilogy. It's really great. I highly recommend it. If you don't enjoy the character Zagloba, I think I'm saying his name right, then I'm sorry, there's no hope for you. You fail as a human being. Anyway, so, again, I'm splitting my Polish cavalry into two different skirmish forces, and the story is one of them is helping out the Swedes, so, and they won the last one, by the way. Not how I kind of wanted it to go, but that's what happened. I kind of was rooting for the loyalists, but anyway. So they have, there we go, 9 force points, 17 recon, and 19 bases. So they have a colonel with 4 command points, paid an extra force point to have that extra command point, which are super important in this game. They have 3 Panzerni, 3 Cossack-style cavalry, 2 Cossack-style cavalry, 2 Cossack, 2 Cossack, and then another 3 Panzerni. So they've got the heavy hitters here. They have 2 units of the heavily armored Panzerni, who are they are clad in chainmail. Their armor is 5, which is pretty good. You need to roll a 5 or less to save, which is on a D10. I mean, that's a pretty good chance. So anyway, so that's the traitors. Here they are on the board. Here he is looking smug after his victory in the first battle. And here's the heavy Panzerni and the Panzerni, and then the Cossack-style cavalry here. And these guys will be grouped into a unit, these guys will be grouped into a unit, and these guys will be grouped into a unit. So he's got 4 command points. With them grouped into 3 units like that, it gives him more control, because your command points are super, super important. So if you can... He's less flexible because his units can't go different directions, but he is saving his command points by having less units to command. Alright, and here's one thing I really love about this system. The loyalists have 6 force points compared to 9. See, in other games, that wouldn't be fair. If I was playing Warhammer or something, if I show up with 1,000 points and you have 1,500 points, well, I'm probably going to get stomped to the ground because there's nothing really in place that's going to fix my deficit in points. However, with By Fire and Sword, there are ways to equalize the forces without adding more troops. So you could show up and just say, okay, we're doing a skirmish game, and I could show up with 6 force points, or heck, even 4 force points, which is the base, and somebody else could show up with 8, have a maxed out force, and there's going to be negative things that happen to the stronger player, and maybe positive things that happen to the weaker player to equalize the game. It's really great. So they have, after his defeat, he's really struggling. He still has the same number of command points, although he had to pay an extra for that third one, and the other one he just got 3 for free, if I remember right. So he's got some Wallachian light cavalry, 3 Cossack-style cavalry. They actually have spears, although it's not on I didn't click the button here, but they have spears. And then he's got 2 more units of Cossack-style cavalry, just regular, each with 2 bases. And then because he's kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here, he's got 4 bases of volunteers, which volunteers are basically just, they're not paid soldiers. I think they're paid with the loot they get, the spoils of war. So they're not the best soldiers. They're pretty decent. I mean, they're not horrible, but they're insubordinate, which means you have to use an extra command point to give them a command. So anyway, so there's the loyalists. Here they are on the table. You got your commander, you got your relations, volunteers, and then your Cossack-style cavalry. Here's the guys with spears. Obviously, there they are. Okay, so here's how we equalize the game. So the first opportunity to equalize the game is when you roll for a scenario. So there's a chart that you roll if you're equal, and then there's a chart you roll if there's a difference between the number of points. So I rolled as the weaker player, the loyalist, they got to roll 3 dice because they have 3 command points, and whatever numbers come up on the dice, those are the scenarios they can choose from. So one of the scenarios I rolled was ambush, which is worth 3 force points. So that takes by taking ambush, that takes their 6 up to a 9, so that the forces are now equal. And it gives them a fighting chance. So here's the table. I felt like this would be a good ambush site. You've got a nice clearing here. You've got places for the units to be hiding as they ride past. And here's deployment. So the relations are the bait. It actually says on the scenario that you're supposed to put a unit out here as bait that's 20 centimeters from the deployment zone of the stronger force. And then I put the two smaller units of Cossack-style cavalry here. I put the volunteers at the rear of the column because that's the most vulnerable spot, and that's probably where they'll do the best. And then the Cossack-style cavalry with spears are over here. And then you've got the stronger player with Cossack-style cavalry, and the Panzerni here at the rear of column. And so these guys you can picture these guys are chasing the Wallachians. These guys are following commanders here in the middle. And so we start turn 1. And, before I forget, the Panzerni are disorganized. So part of the ambush scenario, other than being surrounded, is you roll for panic, and it's random. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I just re-roll a 10, and I rolled an 8. So it's always the best guys that end up being randomly selected to be insubordinate or disorganized or whatever. The few times I've played it, it's always my elite guys. So anyway, so these guys are disorganized, which means that they can't be given an order until they are reorganized, until they're rallied. Luckily, he has 4 command points. So in the first turn, all of these guys have charge orders on the outside, except for the Wallachians. They have a defend order. So it's like they've turned around and they're just going to kind of stop the column from moving and let these guys ambush them. So these guys are going to charge them, they're going to charge them, they're going to charge them, they're going to charge them, and hopefully sandwich this middle unit here, maybe kill the commander if they can. And then from there, attack the rest of the column. So go for the center, split the line. These guys are given he uses 1 command point to rally these guys, which they do. He then gives them a defend order so that they can at least turn around and face these guys. They're given a defend order to turn around. They're given a charge order to go after the Wallachians, and that's it. And then he keeps all his command points because he didn't have to. They all could start with whatever orders at the beginning of the game. At least I assume they can. So at the end of the turn, not so good for the ambushed player, for the stronger player. So what happens is these 2 units, they sandwich this middle unit and wipe it out. They didn't wipe it out in combat, but they demoralized them so much they made them flee. And in the rulebook it says if they are attacked on 2 sides, then they're destroyed. So I assume that's what's supposed to happen. It makes sense because where are they going to run? They have nowhere to go. The Panzerni, this is pretty awesome actually. So not only did they rally, But then when they turned around with their defend order, they fired into the volunteers who were coming up to charge them, and their fire was so awesome that they took out a base, and even with encouragement from their commander, the volunteers fell back. They were disorganized, which is my picture here. The volunteers like, turn around to run. I don't know why he's turned around there, but he should be facing that way. He's disorganized. After they finish off this guy, these guys continue charging, and I assume this is how it works. They continue charging, and they run into the commander. And I'm now starting to think maybe he only has one hit point. I thought maybe he had 3, but now that I look at it, I maybe should have checked that. But anyway, so they do a round of combat with him. He takes 2 damage, and then he withdraws. And so now these guys are in a perfect spot to attack these guys from the flank. I assume they're supposed to withdraw through their unit. I may have done that wrong too. I don't know, but if I did it wrong, let me know in the comments. All right, so here I already showed that picture. At the end of turn 2, this is turn 2. The enemy force is basically wiped out. The volunteers charged. Go back here. They charged into the commander and finished him off. When he died, because the loyalists won, they won initiative, so they got to decide which combat to do. So they wiped out the commander, which means that they had to take a panic test or morale test, which they failed, so they became disordered. These guys charged, and so now these guys only get 1 attack dice, and yeah, it's not good for them. These guys charge. They got spears, so this armor was reduced a little bit. Yeah, these guys ended up fleeing. They were already disorganized. They lost. They failed the morale test, and so they fled. These guys pursued them and finished them off. Now up here, these guys actually bounced off each other. These guys charged them in the rear. But it was such a big unit, because it actually had 5 stands, that it managed to draw combat. And so they just kind of withdrew a little bit. And these guys, even though it's a long distance, he had enough command points to give them a charge order, so they charged these guys. And you can see that little unit's not there anymore. They charged them, wiped them out, and then... they charged them, didn't quite wipe them out, but pursued them and finished them off in the second round of combat. The Lations are just kind of watching the show, like, oh crap. And yeah, like I said, the Panzerni got chased off. So now with no commander, these guys I think the only order they can really have is move. I assume that's how that works when the commander dies. So they're just going to try to get off the board. They're in a place now where they've broken out of the trap, and they're like, maybe we can get out of here. So during turn 3, the volunteers, they're the only ones really poised to charge, and so they charge, but they just rolled bad. It wasn't the fact that they're just crappy soldiers. They just didn't roll very good. Because I hit them on the flank, but they lost combat, had to withdraw. So these guys are going to manage to escape the trap, but they were the only unit that did. Everybody else got wiped out. The entire Swedish allied force got wiped out. So yeah, here's the commander, shaking his mace at the retreating cavalry. You can run, but you can't hide. So there you go. This was a fun game. I love how quickly skirmish games play. Once again, if you're not into this game, I highly recommend it. It's a really interesting time period, because Poland and Lithuania were fighting so many different groups that each has their own unique flavor. You got the Cossacks that are kind of crappy, but they have very good, they got the wagons they can hide behind. They got good infantry and stuff. The Poles have good cavalry. The Swedes have more armor and cannons and firepower. Anyway, I highly recommend you check it out. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed this battle report. See you guys later.